Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. 2021 is slowly coming to an end and we're getting ready to welcome a new year. And I know that many of us likes to make resolutions for the new year. And one resolution that keeps coming every year is reading more books. So if that's your case, then I've got you covered, my friend, because in today's video, I'm going to share the best book I read in 2021 that you must read in 2022. This is like crème de la crème, as French people say, and I'm sure you can pick up at least 1 or 2 books to read for the next year. Before starting, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you're new, and let's get started. First book in our list, and we're starting with hard things first. This is The Choice, Embrace the Possible by Dr. Edith Eva Eger. This is a memoir by Dr. Edith Eger and a very emotive and moving one. The author is a Hungarian Jewish who was sent to Auschwitz concentration camp with her family at the age of 16 years old. So in the first chapters of the book, she tells the story of the horrifying experiences she endured there, including losing her parents and grandparents in the gas chambers and being made to dance for the Nazi officer Joseph Mengele himself just hours after he ordered the death of her mom. Her sisters and she will manage to survive and be liberated after the end of the war, and that's when she will get married and travel to the USA to start a new life. At the same time, of course, struggling with huge health issues and trauma. So she tells the story of her survival and ongoing healing in the USA. She will then decide to study psychology and become a notorious psychologist who will help a lot of people deal with trauma and loss. In the book, she shares a lot of stories of people she helped in her practice, as well as her own healing journey, and a lot of insights about psychology and healing from trauma. She explains that many of us lock ourselves in the prison of our mind just because we refuse to confront our pain and sufferings. This book was absolutely not an easy read for me. I struggled a lot with some chapters, especially the first one in the concentration camp, but it was definitely worth it because it was such a page turner and I couldn't put it down at some times, and I highlighted a lot of passages of the book that really spoke to me. So let me share this one quote from the book. The truth is, we will have unpleasant experiences in our lives, we will make mistakes, we won't always get what we want. This is part of being human. The problem and the foundation of our persistent suffering is the belief that discomfort, mistakes, disappointment signals something about our worth. And I think this is a great reminder because I feel that today's society is trying to convince us that we can be happy all the time, and whenever we feel the slightest discomfort or sadness, then there is something wrong about us. Because how can we be unhappy when everything available to us is here to cheer us up? While this is completely normal, it's part of being human and it has nothing to do with our worth. And I think that no one is 100% happy all the time. This book was recommended by Bill Gates in his newsletter of summer 2020, and you can find his review of the book on his website. It is extremely compassionate and full of wisdom and hope, proving that humans can heal from trauma. If you find this book hard to read but you're still interested in psychology, then I recommend another one which is equally good that I read in 2020. This is Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb. So Lori Gottlieb is a psychologist going through therapy after a tough breakup, and she talks about people she helped in her practice. So yeah, both books are really great if you're interested in psychology. If you pick The Choice, then just be prepared for some tough chapters about the Holocaust. Next book in our list, and this is an absolute favorite, an absolute coup de cœur, 5-star book. This is Normal People by Salih Rooney. Another super talented female writer, a genius, and surely a great debater. I literally wish I can be friends with her or her characters. As soon as I started reading this one, I was hooked and I could not put it down, especially that I was not expecting that depth, because I thought this is another high school love story, but actually it's a lot more than that. It has won so many awards, and Salih Rooney is so young. She's like 28 or 29 years old, so she's really talented. This is a raw millennial, very realistic love story between 2 teenagers in Ireland. On one hand, we have Marianne, a rich girl who lives in a mansion, but she comes from an abusive family. She's weirdo, rebel in school, and she often gets bullied. On the other hand, we have Connell, athletic, popular teenager whose mom happens to work for Marianne's family as their help or their housekeeper. So they start this secret sexual relationship in high school, which propels them into the future because they will lose sight of each other at the end of high school. Then they will meet again at university in Dublin, where this time Marianne is the popular one and Connell is the weirdo and the lonely. So we get to follow their love story along with the change of perspective from high school to university. There is also this examination of what it means to be normal because of everything that happens to them. For instance, popularity and what other people think don't really matter in the whole image of life, because often when you're in high school, everything seems big, everything matters, but when you go to university or when you have another perspective, then you see that some things really didn't matter at the time. I really love this book and I rated it 5 stars, but I have to admit that I felt a bit frustrated and irritated on many occasions because those two characters just couldn't sit down and have an honest conversation with each other. And I found myself at many places just saying, okay, tell her or tell him what you feel. But I think it's part of being real and millennial love story, because I feel that today many millennials don't really seem to speak up their mind, which unfortunately jeopardize so many relationships. So yeah, just a note to say that you might feel frustrated sometimes, but the book is really addictive. You can also watch the book adaptation on BBC if you fancy hearing some Irish accent. I did watch it and I thought it was really good. The actors were amazing, but I have to say that I enjoyed the book better, and this girl really struggled with the accent. Next book in our list, and this one was highly recommended. This is Kim Jiyoung, born 1982, by Cho Nam-Joo and translated by Jamie Cheng. Another book about a woman written by a woman. Now that I think about it, maybe I read more female authors. I'll have to check that. But don't worry, there are also some male authors in this list. You can check the description box if you want to be sure. Okay, back to our book. So this one is about the day-to-day female experience in South Korean society, but I think most of it applies to any place in the world. I think this is an interesting read, especially for men, because it's a genuine representation of women from a female perspective. So the story is about this girl called Kim Jiyoung, who is 30-something years old, living in a tiny apartment in Seoul with her husband and her daughter. She had to leave her job to take care of her newborn full-time, and that's when she starts to lose it and her mental health will deteriorate. She will be sent to a psychiatrist to whom she will recount her story, a story full with misogynistic pressure, aggressions, and frustration that led to her state today. This is a fiction, but you find some real statistics about the condition of women in South Korea. I understand that this might not be a read for everyone because it gets weird sometimes, but still I think that you have to read it if, of course, you can handle stories about how the world has been or can be for women. Next book in our list, and from South Korea we travel to Sudan this time. This is Season of Migration to the North by Tayeb Salih. I couldn't make a list of books without including an Arab author, of course. And yes, I read it in English because it was just easier for me to order it on Amazon rather than look for a library that sells Arab books and buy it. This girl is pragmatic. And in case you don't know where Sudan is, so some geography, it's in Africa and is south of Egypt. Tayeb Salih is one of the greatest Arab authors of the 20th century, alongside with Najib Mahfoud, who is a Nobel Prize winner. This book is great. It's one of my favorites. I rated it 5 stars, and I really want to offer it as a Christmas gift in my Secret Santa at work, but unfortunately I couldn't find it in French. This book is different from anything I read before, and I rated it 5 stars. And usually when I do this, it's because it touches my heart on a very deep level. It's chaotic, it's heartwarming, it's very unpredictable to say the least. The story takes place in a village in Sudan, and it's basically about a young man, aka the narrator, who comes back home after years of studying in England. And once he gets back, he finds that there is a new stranger in town whose name is Mustafa Said, who is very well liked and respected by everyone. So the narrator is very intrigued and fascinated by Mustafa as a person because he's very mysterious, enigmatic, and intriguing, so they become friends. And one night they get really drunk and Mustafa just out of the blue starts reciting English poetry. First, wow, like who does that when they're drunk? And then the narrator finds out that Mustafa lived in England for many years. And Mustafa tells him his disturbing story, to say the least, when he lived in London. So that's when we learn that Mustafa was very much desired by English women as an exotic novelty or colonial conquest, but he always ended up intoxicating them as some kind of revenge on the colonial West, which eventually will destroy him as well. After we learn the story of Mustafa, something big happens, and that's when the narrator ceases to be very passive and takes some action. I'm not gonna say more because no spoiler, of course, but if you're intrigued, and I hope you are, please read the book. Next book in our list, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I first discovered Taylor Jenkins with her book Daisy Jones and the Six, which I absolutely adored. I read it last year, and if you want to read it, I really recommend the audiobook because you have different voices for different characters and it really seems like a documentary. Taylor Jenkins is really talented at writing stories about celebrities that feel really genuine, that for a second I googled Daisy Jones to see if she really existed, because the book has it all. They had lyrics for songs, name of albums, covers of albums, so I was just confused. How can she imagine all of this? Then this year I saw this one being recommended a lot on social media, so I picked it up for my summer vacation, and I think you can't go wrong with Taylor Jenkins. When you read the title of the book, you probably think of a romance story, but believe me, there's a lot more to it than that. And the romantic story in this book is really not your typical rom-com movie. So the book tells the story of Evelyn Hugo, who is a famous Hollywood star, very beautiful, Oscar winner, that lived her entire life in the public eye, but disappeared in her later life. One day she will come back because she's organizing this big auction to sell her dresses to raise money for cancer. She also wants to write her biography, and surprisingly she picks this new unexperienced journalist for that. And the rest of the book is going along Evelyn Hugo's vibrant and fascinating life as her journalist writes her biography. And there is a twist at the end which you probably won't see coming, but I'm not gonna say more. Anyways, very captivating story. I think that Taylor Jenkins is very talented at keeping you engaged in her books. Such a page turner. I really recommend it if you're taking the plane or the train because you won't notice time passing. Next book in our list, The Course of Love by Alain de Botton, another 5-star book. I don't have the physical copy because I read it on my Kindle. It's a bit hard to find this one. For me, this is a must read for anyone in a relationship or planning to be in a serious relationship anytime in the future. One should be taught at school along with Shakespeare so we can have some kind of balance. This book is both a fiction and non-fiction book because we have a story going along, and on many occasions the author steps in to explain the philosophical and psychological perspective behind events or the character's choices, actions, or feeling, which is super interesting. So the story takes place in Edinburgh in Scotland. We have a couple, Rabeh and Kristen. They meet, fall in love, get married, and then have children. Very typical boy meets a girl story. But as you know, no long-term serious relationship is as simple as happily ever after. So the author portrays the day-to-day life of a real couple after the excitement of the early days of love fades away. I know it sounds a bit pessimistic, but believe me, it's just realistic, and I think that anyone who has been in a relationship for at least 3 years can understand or can relate. For instance, the author describes the first fight between the couple after their marriage, which symbolized the end of the excitement of the beginning, according to the author. So Rabeh and Kristen are in IKEA shopping for some furniture and home supplies. Kristen picked a type of glass to buy, but Rabeh doesn't like her choice and would rather go with something simpler. Both will insist on buying their glass of choice and no one would like to compromise, and that's when they will have their first fight over something very insignificant such as picking glasses in IKEA. For many events like this, the author will analyze the situation and give some insights about the philosophy of marriage. Is this the reality of marriage, fighting over futile things? And if fighting is inevitable, so why does love matter? If eventually I will always fight with the person I marry, so why should I marry someone I love? Alain de Botton will try to address such questions in a philosophical yet easy to understand way, and it's just fascinating. This book is a real exploration of what happens after marriage, because most books and romance movies will end at marriage while this is only the beginning. And how should we feel about our original ideals and high expectations under the pressure of an average reality? So yeah, big recommendation, very compelling, very provocative, and very affirming book for anyone who believes in love or is/wants to be in a relationship. Last book in my list, this is Greenlights by Matthew McConaughey. Well, I might be biased here because I'm a huge fan of Matthew McConaughey for so many obvious reasons. I always thought that he is one of the funniest, most genuine and intellectual celebrities out there, and this memoir just proved me right. Not only is he a great actor, but this guy is a great writer as well. So Matthew McConaughey have kept diaries and journal for the most part of his life, and in 2020 he gathered all his diaries and and journal and decide to write his biography. And this book is just filled with life stories and learning. It's funny, it's genuine, it's engaging and honest. There's a lot of big events mentioned here, some movie details as well as behind the scenes. For instance, we learn where his famous saying, all right, come from, how did he prepare for the movie Dallas Buyers Club, and how the money chant in The Wolf of Wall Street was his distressing ritual and it ended up being used in the movie. There is also another part of this book which is a bit self-help or self-development, which I found equally interesting. I also listened to the audiobook, which is read by Matthew himself, and I really enjoyed it. His narration is fantastic. If you decide to read this book, I highly recommend you go with the audiobook. That's all for me, guys. I hope you like this video and you find at least 1 or 2 books that you can read in 2022. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you're new. Follow me on Instagram and Goodreads for more book reviews. And as always, guys, question everything, do your own research and follow your instincts. I'll see you very soon in the next one. Bye!